My beloved child, come and sit with me in the quiet place of your heart, for we must speak of your story. You have looked back over the chapters of your life, at the narrative that it tells, and I know that it has filled you with a profound and a holy shame. You have longed with all your heart for your life to be a beautiful and a shining testament to me, a glorious story that would bring honor and praise to my name. But instead, as you look at the hard and often painful evidence of your own experience, you have come to believe that your life tells the very opposite story. You see the undeniable evidence of your past failures, of your repeated sins, of your persistent weaknesses. You see the long and sorrowful chapters of your brokenness and your defeat. And you have come to the devastating conclusion that your life is not a good testimony. It is, in fact, a cautionary tale. You see it as a story of what not to do, a sad and broken example, a warning to others, and the deepest and most painful fear of your heart, the fear that has so often silenced your voice and has kept you hiding in the shadows, is the fear that you're messy, you're broken, and your imperfect life has brought dishonor to me, your God. You have feared that people would look at your struggles, at your weaknesses, at your failures, and that they would say to themselves, if that is what a child of God looks like, then I want no part of it. And this fear, this deep sense of being a bad witness for me, has been a heavier burden than all of your other trials combined. But my beloved child, you have been judging your own testimony by the world's harsh and unforgiving standard of perfection. You have been trying to measure your life against a flawless ideal that no human being has ever attained. But you have not yet understood heaven's standard. For heaven does not measure a life by its lack of flaws, but by the magnitude of the grace that has redeemed those flaws. You thought your life was a testament to your own failure, but I've come to you today to retitle your entire life story, for your life will be, from this day forward, a glorious and a powerful testament of my grace. Before you can fully embrace this new title, we must first, with a profound and a gentle honesty, look together at the testimony you have feared that you have. I do not want you to hide from this shame any longer. I want you to bring it out into the light of my love so that I can heal it. Let us speak first of the testimony of your sin. You look back at your moral failures. You look back at the times you have fallen into the same old, familiar temptations. The times you have spoken the harsh word. The times you have acted in selfishness. And you are filled with a deep and a pervasive shame. And you have thought to yourself, how can my life possibly be a testament to a holy God when I myself am so unholy? My sin completely disqualifies my testimony. You have allowed the accuser of your soul to convince you that your sin is the loudest, the truest, and the final sentence in the story of your life. And so you have hidden your story, believing that it is a source of shame, not only to you, but also to me. Let us speak of the testimony of your weakness. You have looked at your persistent inner struggles, your anxiety, your fear, your seasons of depression, your moments of doubt, your lack of self-control, and you have seen them as a poor and an embarrassing advertisement for my transforming power. You have thought to yourself, a true child of God should be strong. They should be joyful. They should be at peace at all times. But I'm so often weak and anxious. and sorrowful. My weakness must be a testament to God's failure to truly change me. You have compared your own internal and messy struggles to the polished and victorious public facades of others. And you have found your own testimony to be profoundly and shamefully wanting. You have been ashamed of your own fragile humanity. Let us speak on the testimony of your suffering. You have endured long and difficult seasons of suffering, of chronic sickness, of financial lack, of painful and unresolved relational conflict. And you have feared what your ongoing suffering says about me. You have worried that people will look at your hard and difficult life and will conclude that I am not a good, or a powerful, or a faithful God. And so you have often felt in desperate and an exhausting need to pretend that everything is fine. You have tried to hide your suffering. You have put on a brave face, lest your pain should become a bad testimony to my goodness. And this heavy burden, the burden of having to pretend to be blessed in the very midst of your pain, has been one of the most exhausting parts of your entire journey. And finally, let us speak of the testimony of your failure. You have, with a sincere and a courageous heart, tried to do things for me. You have stepped out in faith. You have started the business. You have launched the ministry. You have tried to help someone, and it has ended in what the world and you would call failure. And you have looked at these public and often humiliating failures as a great and a permanent stain upon your testimony. You have thought to yourself, I tried to do something great for God, and it failed. My life is now a public testament to the fact that God does not come through for those who step out for him. And this has been a source of your most profound disillusionment. And it has silenced your willingness to ever take a great and a beautiful risk for me again. My beloved child, in all of this, you have been operating under a terrible and a fundamental misunderstanding. You have believed that the primary purpose of your life was to be a testament to your own strength, to your own holiness, to your own faithfulness, and to your own success, and by that impossible standard. Your testimony has, indeed, often been a failure, but that was never the testimony I was trying to write with your life. My plan has always, from the very beginning, been for your life to be a testament not to your own goodness, but to mine, not to your own strength, but to my power, not to your own perfection, but to my profound, extravagant, and all-sufficient grace. You have feared that your sin was a bad testimony, but I have always intended to use your great sin to create a glorious and a stunning testimony of my even greater and more radical forgiveness. You have feared that your weakness was a bad testimony, but I have always intended to use your profound weakness to create a powerful and undeniable testimony of my own supernatural strength being made perfect in you. You have feared that your suffering was a bad testimony, but I have always intended to use your long suffering to create a beautiful and a compassionate testimony of my sustaining comfort and my ever-present companionship in the midst of the fire. You have feared that your failure was a bad testimony, but I have always intended to use your greatest failure to create a breathtaking and a miraculous testimony of my power to bring beauty from ashes and resurrection from the grave. The testimony that you have feared. You had the sad and shameful story of your own failure is not the story that I'm telling. I am, at this very moment, taking the very elements of your life that you have been most ashamed of, and I am making them the stunning and the beautiful centerpiece of my own glorious story. Your life is not a cautionary tale by the power of my grace. It is now being transformed into a masterpiece, a living and a breathing testament of my love. And now that you understand that your life is meant to be a testament to my grace, you must first come to understand the glorious, the beautiful, and the completely upside down logic of how my grace actually works in a human life. You have now heard and understood my heart's true intention for your life. You see that your story, with all its flaws and its failures, is not a cautionary tale, but is destined to become a glorious and a powerful testament to my grace. But I know, my child, that this beautiful promise is a difficult concept for your human mind to grasp. For you have been raised and you have been trained in the harsh and unforgiving logic of this fallen world, a logic that is based entirely on the principles of earning, of deserving, and of merit. And so, to truly understand how your life of failure can bring me glory, you must now allow me to teach you the beautiful, the liberating, and the completely upside down logic of my grace. In your world and in the kingdom of man, strength is always rewarded. Success is always celebrated. Natural talent is always admired. And worthiness is always a prerequisite for any great blessing or any high position. And you have, understandably, applied the same human logic to me. You have believed that I, the God of all creation, must surely be looking for the strongest, the most talented, the most impressive, and the most righteous vessels to fill with my spirit and to use for my glory. And because you have looked at your own life and you have seen only weakness, a lack of great talent, and a history of unworthiness, you have, by the world's logical and sensible standards, completely disqualified yourself from any great use in my kingdom. But my beloved child, my kingdom operates on a completely opposite and a wonderfully paradoxical set of principles. The logic of my grace is not the logic of your world. In fact, it is a glorious and a divine offense to it. I am not looking for the vessels that are already full. I am looking for the ones that are empty. I am not drawn to the ones who are strong in their own power. I am irresistibly drawn to the ones who are weak and who know it. I do not feel the righteous and the worthy. I feel the unrighteous and the unworthy. And by my grace, I make them righteous and worthy. You must understand this great and foundational truth of how I work. My grace, like water, always flows downhill. It seeks out the lowest, the most humble, and the most empty places to pool and to gather. Therefore, your weakness, your emptiness, and your profound sense of your own unworthiness are not your great disqualifications for my blessing. They are, in fact, your greatest and most beautiful qualifications. Your emptiness is the vessel I choose. Let me show you the beauty of this upside-down logic. First, you must understand that grace is a gift, not a wage. You have been trying for your entire life to relate to me as a servant to a master, or as an employee to an employer. You have been trying to perform well enough to earn a wage from me, the wage of my approval. my blessing, and my love, but my grace, the very substance of my kingdom, is not a wage that is paid in exchange for work that has been done. Grace is a gift, and a gift, by its very nature, is unearned and undeserved. A wage is for the deserving. A gift is for the undeserving. I am not your employer. I am your father. And a loving father does not pay his children for their love or their obedience. A loving father lavishes his good gifts upon his children simply because they are his children and because it is his great delight to do so. You can never earn a true gift. You can only, with a humble and a grateful heart, receive it. Next, you must understand that it is my deliberate and joyful strategy to choose the foolish things of this world to shame the wise. Look back at the history of those I have chosen and can have used most mightily in my great story. When I needed a king for my people, did I choose the tallest, the strongest, and the most impressive of the sons of Jesse? I chose the youngest, the smallest, the one who was overlooked, the shepherd boy David. And I used his simple faith and his small stone to defeat the great and prideful giant when I needed to build my church. Did I choose the wise philosophers from Athens, the powerful senators from Rome, or the respected religious leaders from Jerusalem? Numbering, I chose a small and a ragtag band of uneducated fishermen, of tax collectors, and of zealots. I chose the foolish, the weak, and the despised when I needed to find my greatest apostle, the one who would carry my gospel to the Gentile world. Did I choose a humble and a righteous man? No. I chose Saul of Tarsus, a murderer, a persecutor, the chief of all sinners, a man who was breathing out threats against my own children. Why do I do this? Why is this my consistent pattern? It is because when I choose to use a vessel that is obviously weak, obviously foolish, and obviously unworthy in the eyes of the world, then no one can possibly look at the great and miraculous work that is done through that vessel and give the credit to the vessel itself. All of the glory, all the honor, and all of the praise must, by a divine and a logical necessity, go to me, the one who is working through them. My child, your profound and felt weakness is not an obstacle to my plan for your life. It is, in fact, a central and an essential part of my glorious strategy. And this leads to the great and powerful secret of my kingdom. My power is made perfect in your weakness. My divine strength does not flow most powerfully into a vessel that is already full of its own strength, its own wisdom, and its own self-confidence. No, my power flows most fully and most gloriously into a vessel that is empty of itself. I have, in my great and loving wisdom, allowed your trials. I have allowed your failures. I have allowed you to come to the blessed and painful end of yourself so that you would finally become an empty and a completely surrendered vessel through which my own supernatural and resurrection power can now flow, unhindered by your own ego or by your own striving. Your weakness is not your failure. It is the wide open and unguarded doorway through which my divine power now has full permission to enter your life. Remember the story that my son told, the parable of the great banquet. A certain man prepared a great and a wonderful feast, and he sent his servant to call the guests who had been invited. These were the important, the successful, and the worthy people. And one by one, they all made their excuses. They were too busy with their own lives, with their own successes, with their own kingdoms to come to the feast. And what did the master of the house do? He became angry, and he said to his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. My beloved child, you have looked at your own life, and you have seen yourself as the poor, as the crippled, as the blind, and as the lame. And from a worldly perspective, you are right. But you must understand that these are the very ones that I have invited to my great and glorious feast of grace. Your brokenness has not disqualified you from my banquet. Your brokenness is your very invitation. Therefore, I am calling you now to a radical and a wonderfully liberating act of the heart. I am calling you to embrace your own unworthiness. You must stop trying to hide it. You must stop trying to fix it in your own strength. You must stop being so deeply ashamed of it. And instead, I want you to begin to see it as your greatest and most beautiful asset. For it is only when you are joyfully and humbly content to be the empty vessel that you can be constantly and gloriously filled with my grace. It is only when you are content to be the foolish thing that you can be mightily used by me to confound the wise. The immense and crushing pressure to be good enough for me is now over. The exhausting and impossible work of trying to make yourself worthy of my love is finished. You can now, for the first time in your life, simply be you weak, broken, imperfect, and in constant and joyful need of me. And in that very place of honest and surrendered weakness, you will discover a power, a purpose, and a peace that you have never known before. For the great testament of your life will not be about you at all. It will be a glorious, a shining, and an undeniable testament to the beautiful, the scandalous, the powerful, and the completely upside-down logic of my amazing grace. You have now begun to understand the glorious, beautiful, and completely upside-down logic of my kingdom. You see with new and enlightened eyes that my grace is not a wage that is earned by the strong, but a free and a glorious gift that is given to the weak. You understand that your own profound sense of unworthiness is not your disqualification from my love, but is in fact your greatest and most beautiful qualification. But now, we must take this profound and life-altering truth, and we must apply it to the darkest, the most painful, and the most shame-filled room in the house of your past. We must now, with great courage and with great honesty, speak of your sin. I know, my beloved child, that when we speak of your moral failures, a deep and a cold shame rises up within you. I want you to bring to your mind, just for a moment, the memory of your greatest failure, your most shameful sin, the one that you have hidden away in the deepest and most secret cellar of your soul. I know you do not want to look at it. It is the one memory that makes you feel the most worthless, the most defiled, and the most unlike me. It is the one piece of evidence that the accuser of your soul uses most effectively to convince you that you are a fraud, a hypocrite, and that you have no true and lasting right to even call yourself my child. You have looked at this great failure as the ugly, the permanent, and the unforgivable stain that has ruined the entire tapestry of your life. And you have believed that it is the one thing that even my great grace might not be powerful enough to truly wash away. But my child, A great and a powerful light is only truly and fully appreciated in the context of a deep and a profound darkness. And the brilliant, the dazzling, and the all-consuming light of my grace, it's never more beautiful, never more powerful, and never more glorious than when it is shining upon the pitch-black backdrop of your darkest sin. Your greatest failure was not the end of your testimony. On the contrary, it has now become the very stage, the black velvet backdrop upon which the magnificent, the scandalous, and the breathtaking nature of my forgiveness can now be most dramatically and most beautifully displayed. For as my Apostle Paul declared, where your sin abounded, my grace abounded more. Let me show you how this divine principle works. Remember the story my son told of the two men who owed a great debt. One man owed a small and a manageable amount, and the other owed an enormous, a catastrophic, and a completely unpayable amount. And the moneylender, in an act of great and surprising generosity, graciously canceled the debts of both men. Then, my son asked the simple question, which of them will love him more? The answer, of course, was obvious to all. It was the one who had had the greater debt forgiven. My beloved child, the great magnitude of your sin and your failure has not made you less capable of loving me. It has. By the beautiful and upside-down logic of my grace, given you a far greater capacity to love me with a deep, a passionate, a humble, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. A person who believes they have only sinned a little can only ever love me a little. But you, who are so painfully aware of the great depth of your own failure, are now a perfect and a beautiful candidate to become a person who loves me with a great and an extravagant love. Your great sin has not disqualified you from loving me. It has uniquely qualified you to love me more deeply than you ever could have before. The depth of your failure has created the very capacity for the height of your future worship. Remember also the story of the woman who was caught in the very act of adultery. She was dragged out into the harsh light of day by the religious and the self-righteous, and she was thrown at the feet of my son. She was shamed. She was condemned. And the stones of the law were heavy in the hands of her accusers. By all the laws of this world, her story was over. She was worthy only of death. But what did my son, who is the very embodiment of my grace, do? He did not pick up a stone. He stooped down into the dust. He met her in her place of lowest shame, and with a quiet word of divine authority and a profound act of grace, he silenced her accusers, and he completely forgave her sin, telling her to go and to sin no more. And what was the result of this encounter? Her great and her public shame was miraculously transformed into a great and a public testimony of his radical and life-altering mercy. So it is with you, my child. The very story that the enemy has intended to use to shame you and to stone you for the rest of your life, I will now take that very story and I will transform it into the most powerful and the most effective part of your testimony. It will be a story that will silence the accusers of other broken people. It will be a story that will give a profound and a living hope to other sinners who believe they are beyond the reach of my love. And it will be a story that will set a multitude of other captives free. And you must understand that my grace does far more than just pardon your past sin. It supernaturally empowers your present and your future. The deep, the painful, and the humbling knowledge of your own capacity to fail has now become your greatest and most effective protection against any future pride. You will never again be tempted to believe that you are righteous in your own strength. The very memory of your fall, which the enemy has used to torment you, I will now transform into a holy and a humble reminder that will keep you clinging tightly to my hand and in a state of constant dependence on my grace. And the very same grace that has so powerfully forgiven your great sin is now the very same divine power that will enable you to walk in a new and a glorious holiness. A holiness that is born not of your own self-confident effort, but of a deep, a humble, and a profoundly grateful dependence on me. And finally, your great failure has now become a beautiful and a sturdy bridge. It is a bridge that will now allow you to walk with an incredible authenticity into the lives of other people who are, at this very moment, trapped in the same sin and the same shame that you once knew. You will be able to cross the deep moat of their own defenses, for they will know, by the Spirit, that you are not coming to them as a righteous and a condescending judge. They will know that you are coming to them as a fellow, forgiven sinner, as a wounded healer who speaks their same language of brokenness. Your personal and honest testimony of your own failure and of my subsequent and glorious grace will be the divine key that will unlock their prison doors and will show them the way to their own freedom. The very thing that you were so certain had disqualified you from all future ministry has now, by my grace, perfectly and uniquely qualified you for the deepest, the most real, and the most powerful kind of ministry. Therefore, I'm calling you now to a great and a courageous act of faith. You must stop hiding the story of your great failure. You must stop seeing it as your great shame. You must, in a holy and a beautiful partnership with my Spirit, begin to see it as my great stage. I am not, in any way, asking you to glorify your sin. I'm asking you to, for the rest of your life, glorify the magnificent, the all-powerful, the all-sufficient, and the stunningly beautiful grace that has so completely and so gloriously triumphed over your sin. The darkest and most shameful chapter of your life is now, by the power of my redemption, being transformed into the very chapter that will bring the most brilliant light to others. The part of your story that you have been most ashamed of is now becoming the very part of your story that will bring the most glory to me. For your life is now, and will forever be, a living, a breathing, and a powerful testament to this glorious and eternal truth. Where sin abounds, my grace abounds all the more. You have now begun to grasp the glorious, beautiful, and scandalous truth that your greatest moral failures, when brought into the light of my love, have not been the end of your story, but have become the very stage upon which the magnificent drama of my extravagant forgiveness is now being displayed. But I know, my beloved child, that there is another, a more persistent, and a more subtle source of shame in your heart. It is not the shame of what you have done in your past, but the shame of who you feel you are in your present. We must now speak of your ongoing and profound sense of personal weakness. I know how you have struggled with this. You have looked at your own inner frailty, your persistent anxiety, your lingering fears, your lack of consistent self-discipline, your emotional fragility, and you have despised it with a deep and a weary self-hatred. you have been taught, and you have come to believe that a true and a mature child of God should be strong, bold, confident, and unshakable. You have compared the messy and often chaotic reality of your own inner world with the polished, serene, and victorious public facades of others. And you have concluded that you are a spiritual failure, a disappointment to me. You have begged me, time and again, with tears of frustration, to take your weakness from you, believing it to be the great and final obstacle to my power flowing through your life. But my child, you have been seeing your weakness as an obstacle, when I have always, from the very beginning, seen it as a glorious opportunity. You have seen your weakness as a flawed and an ugly canvas that you wish with all your heart was a different color. But I, the divine artist, have seen it as the most perfect and beautiful of all canvases, a deep, a dark, and a non-reflective black velvet, upon which the brilliant, the multifaceted, and the glorious diamond of my own supernatural strength can be most clearly, most stunningly, and most undeniably displayed. The purpose of your life is not to display your strength to the world, but to display mine. And this is how my power is perfected in your frailty. Let me now reveal to you the beautiful and divine purpose of the very weakness you have so despised. First, you must understand that I have allowed your weakness to remain in you, to keep you in a state of constant dependence on me. If you were naturally strong, my child, you would be profoundly and constantly tempted to rely on your own strength. If you were naturally confident, you would rely on your own confidence. If you were naturally disciplined, you would rely on your own discipline and in your self-reliance. You would slowly and subtly walk away from me. I have, in my great and loving wisdom, allowed certain weaknesses and thorns to remain in you for one primary and a loving reason, to keep you in a state of constant, and at times, desperate dependence on me. Your weakness is the very thing that keeps you coming back to me, day after day, moment by moment, as your only true source of strength. It is the golden chain of your own acknowledged need that keeps you tethered closely to my heart. In this, your weakness is not your great curse. It has been one of my most profound and precious gifts to you. Next, your weakness serves the glorious purpose of displaying my power to a watching world. When the world looks at a person who is naturally talented, who is naturally strong, who is naturally charismatic, and they see that person achieve great things, who gets the glory? The person. They say, "What a great man," or "What a talented woman." But when the world looks at a person like you, a person they may know is, in themselves, weak, or fearful, or ordinary, and they see you do extraordinary things, when they see you filled with a supernatural peace in the very midst of a storm, when they see you loving your enemies, when they see you walking in a quiet and a humble authority, they are confounded. They are baffled. They cannot give the credit to you, for they know your natural weakness, and so they are forced, by the sheer, undeniable evidence of your transformed life, to conclude that there must be a power at work in you that is far greater than your own. Do you see, my child? Your weakness does not hide my glory. It is the very thing that reveals it most powerfully. It becomes the undeniable, irrefutable evidence of my presence and my power in your life. Your weakness is the stage upon which my divine strength loves to perform its greatest and most glorious works. Your weakness also serves the beautiful purpose of making you compassionate. Your own ongoing and often frustrating struggle with your own frailty is the very thing that has been giving you a profound, a tender, and an authentic compassion for the weaknesses of other people. If you were perfectly and naturally strong, you would be profoundly tempted to become impatient and judgmental toward those who are not. But because you are so intimately and so painfully acquainted with your own inner struggles, you can now approach other struggling souls, not with an air of condescending superiority, but with a gentle, a patient, and a deeply understanding heart. Your own weakness has made you a safe place for other weak and broken people. It has transformed you from a potential judge into a compassionate healer. And finally, your weakness is an invitation to my deepest intimacy. In your moments of strength and self-sufficiency, you have related to me as your partner, or your king, or your Lord. These are good things, but in your moments of your greatest and most profound weakness, in the moments you have finally given up on trying to be strong, and you have cried out to me from a place of utter and complete honesty, it is in those moments that you have experienced my presence most profoundly. Your weakness is a doorway. It is an open invitation to experience me, not just as your distant and all-powerful God, but as your ever-present, your strength-giving, and your most intimate companion. It is the blessed prerequisite for the deepest experience of my sustaining grace. Therefore, I am calling you now to a great and a holy paradigm shift. You must, from this day forward, stop despising your own weakness. You must stop seeing it as your great enemy. You must stop hiding it in shame. And you must stop relentlessly asking me to take it away from you. Instead, I am now inviting you to begin to see your weakness as your greatest and most precious spiritual asset. I am inviting you, as my beloved Apostle Paul so profoundly learned to do, to even begin to boast in your weakness, not because you love the weakness itself, but because you have come to so deeply love the great, the glorious, and the all-sufficient power of mind that comes to rest upon you in the very place of that weakness. You are weak, and that is the most wonderful and glorious truth about you. For because you are weak, I can now be strong in you, and the great testament of your life is not meant to be. Look at how strong and how wonderful all I am. The beautiful, the powerful, and the eternally true testament of your life will now be this. Look at how weak and how ordinary I am. And yet, look at how magnificent and how strong my God is in me. This is the true and the everlasting testament of my grace. You have now begun to understand the glorious and upside-down logic of my kingdom. You see with new and enlightened eyes that my grace is not attracted to your strength, but to your weakness, and that your greatest failures have become the very stage upon which my most extravagant forgiveness is now being displayed. But I know, my child, that even as you begin to embrace this truth, your eyes still fall upon the lasting evidence of your past battles, your scars, your broken places, and you're still tempted to see them with a sense of profound and abiding shame. So, we must now turn our attention to the very landscape of your own soul, to the places where you feel most damaged, most broken, and most permanently disfigured. I know how you see these scars. You see the ragged scar that was left on your heart by that great betrayal. You see the deep and ugly scar that was left by your most humiliating public failure. You see the internal scars that have been left by your long and wearying battle with your own weakness and your own sin. And you have tried, with all your might, to hide these scars from the world, and even from yourself. You have covered them with the thick makeup of a happy facade. You believe that they make you ugly. You believe that they are the permanent and shameful evidence that you are damaged goods. And you have believed that no one, not even I, your loving God, could ever truly see these scars as anything other than ugly marks of your failure. But my beloved child, once again, you have been looking at your scars with the eyes of this fallen world, a world that worships a flawless, an untouched, and an unscarred perfection. But I am the master restorer. I am the great physician. And in my divine workshop, the very place where a precious vessel has been broken and has then been lovingly and masterfully mended by my own hand, becomes the most beautiful, the most valuable, and the most celebrated part of the entire piece. For I have not just patched you up with a cheap and human glue. No, I have been mending your broken places with the very molten gold of my own divine and redeeming love. And so your scars, the very ones you have so deeply despised, are no longer a source of your shame. They have become the radiant, the beautiful, and the golden seams that now and forever testify not to your brokenness, but to the incredible skill and the profound love of your healer. Your scars will now testify of your healer. Let me show you the beautiful and powerful testimony that your scars will now tell to the world. First, your scars testify to your profound and authentic history with me. An unbroken and a flawless vessel has no story to tell. But your scars, my child, they tell a magnificent and an epic story. This one, beautiful, golden seam right here. This tells the glorious story of the time you were shattered into a million pieces by your grief. And my gentle and patient hand came and gathered every piece and put you back together again. And this intricate starburst pattern of golden lines over here, this tells the stunning story of your great failure and of the scandalous and extravagant grace that not only forgave you, but restored you to a place of honor. Your scars are not a random collection of damage. They have now become a beautiful and an intricate map, a map that tells the story of all the places where my grace has miraculously intersected with your brokenness. They are a powerful and a visible testimony of our shared history together, a history of your weakness and of my strength, of your failure and of my faithfulness. Next, your scars testify to my incredible skill as a healer. The world, when it looks at your scar, may be tempted to remember your original wound, but when all of heaven looks at your scar, it does not see the wound. It sees the beautiful, the masterful, and the perfect work of the great physician. Your healed and golden scars are now my before and after pictures, a living and a breathing portfolio of my restorative work, put on glorious display for the entire world to see. They are the undeniable proof that there is no wound so deep that my grace cannot heal it. They are the evidence that there is no brokenness so profound that my love cannot perfectly mend it. Your very being is now a talking advertisement for the divine and unparalleled skill of your healer. And your scars now testify to your new and surprising strength. You have, for so long, seen your scarred places as your places of greatest weakness and your greatest fragility. But in the supernatural economy of my kingdom, the very opposite is true. In your world, a bone that has been broken and has been properly set by a skilled physician often becomes stronger at the very point of the break than it was before. And so it is with your soul, the very places where you are most deeply and most painfully broken, having now been filled, sealed, and reinforced with the divine and powerful substance of my own grace and my own love, have now become your areas of greatest and most formidable spiritual strength. Your scars are not your weak points. They are your strong points. They are the places where the steel of your character has been doubly reinforced by my divine grace. The very place of your greatest failure, now healed and redeemed, will become the source of your greatest authority. The very place of your deepest wound, now mended by my hand, will become the source of your most profound and effective compassion. And this leads to the most glorious testimony of all. Your scars have now perfectly qualified you to be a wounded healer. This is the beautiful and glorious purpose I have been working toward in you all along. Your scars are now your holy credentials. They are your divine diploma from the hard but glorious school of your suffering. And they are the very thing that will now give you a profound and an authentic authority to minister to all the other broken and hurting people in this world when they see your beautiful golden scars. They will know that you are a safe person. They will know that you are not speaking to them from a high and distant place of theory, but from the low and familiar place of your own deep, personal experience. Your scars will not repel them. They will draw them in, for in your scars, they will see the undeniable hope for their own healing, your greatest wounds, the very things that the enemy intended to use to destroy you and to silence you, have now, by the beautiful alchemy of my grace, become the source of your most powerful, most authentic, and most effective ministry. Therefore, my beloved, I am now calling you to a complete and a total revolution in how you see your scars. You must, from this day forward, stop hiding them. You must stop covering them up with the thick and the concealing makeup of perfectionism. You must stop being ashamed of them. They are no longer the marks of your failure. They are the radiant and the glorious evidence of my grace at work in your life. They are the very signature of the master artist upon his beautifully restored masterpiece. And to hide your scars is now to hide my greatest and most glorious work in your life. I am now calling you to learn to see them as I see them, as beautiful, as honorable, as powerful, and as glorious. You are not a broken thing. You are beautifully and a masterfully mended vessel. You are a living masterpiece of my restorative art. And now that you understand the profound beauty of your own mendedness, we must now move to the great and the final declaration of your life's new and glorious purpose as a living testament to my grace. We have journeyed together now through the deep and beautiful mysteries of my kingdom. You understand the glorious, upside-down logic of my grace. And you have seen how it is a power that is not attracted to your strength, but to your weakness. You have seen with new and enlightened eyes how your greatest moral failures have become the very stage for my most extravagant forgiveness. You have understood how your most profound weaknesses have become the perfect canvas for my supernatural strength. And you have seen how the scars of your past, which you once saw as your greatest shame, have now been transformed into the beautiful and radiant testimony of your healer, the private and the internal work of your redemption and your restoration is now nearing its completion. But you must understand, my beloved child, that a testimony is not meant to remain a secret. A story of a great and a glorious rescue is not written to be hidden away in a locked and a dusty attic. A light is not lit to be placed under a bowl. The time has now come for your private story to be given a public purpose. The time has come for your life to become a testament. For a long and a painful season, you have hidden your story in shame. You have believed it was a story that would bring only dishonor to my name. But I declare to you today that the season of your hiddenness is over. The time of your obscurity and your shame is now finished. And I am now, by my own sovereign will and for my own great glory, taking the beautiful and the redeemed story of your life, and I am commissioning it as a public testament to my name. I am publishing your story of my grace, your very existence, with all its history of failure and of forgiveness, of weakness and of strength, of brokenness and of beauty, will now become a living, a breathing, and a powerful story that will be known and read by all. My Apostle Paul, in a moment of divine inspiration, spoke of this great mystery. He said that your lives are to be like a letter from Christ, written and not with the dead ink of human effort, but with the very living spirit of your God. My child, you are now being published. I am sending you out into this dark and hurting world as one of my great and true stories from the library of heaven. And this book, the book that is your life, is bound not in leather, but in the beautiful cover of your redeemed humanity. Your life is now my message to a world that is starving for good news. And who will be the readers of this living and divinely published story? First, a world that is lost in the darkness of its own failure and its shame will now read your story. And as they read, they will find a new and a startling hope. They will read the difficult and the honest chapter of your great failure, and they will see themselves in it. And then they will read the next, more glorious chapter, the chapter of my extravagant and no questions asked forgiveness. And it will give them a hope that they have never known before. They will see, through the undeniable evidence of your life, that my grace was great enough and wide enough to cover you. Then perhaps, just perhaps, it is great enough to cover them as well. Your life will be a story that makes my radical grace accessible and believable to the very worst of sinners. Next, those who are broken, wounded, and believe that they are beyond all hope of repair will now read your story. They will look closely at the beautiful, the intricate, and the golden scars that you now carry with a quiet and a humble confidence. And in those radiant scenes, they will read the powerful and hopeful testimony of a master restorer. Your story will tell them, with an authority that mere words can never possess, that no one is too broken to be made beautiful again. Your beautifully mended life will be a powerful and a tangible story of hope for all the shattered and the discarded souls of this world. Those who are struggling with their own profound weakness, who feel inadequate and powerless to live a good life, will now read your story. They will read the chapter of your own deep and often humiliating weakness, and they will see that it was not the end of your story, but the very beginning of mine in you. They will read, through the evidence of your life, how my divine and supernatural power was made perfect not in your strength, but in your very frailty. And your story will give them the courage to stop despising their own weakness, and to instead embrace it as the open door through which my power can enter their own lives. Your life will be a story that will redefine strength for an entire generation that has been taught to worship at the altar of self-reliance, and even the religious, those who still, in their pride, believe that my favor must be earned and that my love is a reward for their own good behavior, will now be forced to read your story, and it will profoundly confound them. It will trouble them. They will look at your flawed and messy past, and then they will look at your present and your coming blessing, and it will not compute in their neat and tidy, legalistic minds. Your life will become a beautiful, a glorious, and a troubling paradox to them. It will be a living testament to a grace that is greater than all of our sin, a grace that shatters their small, their predictable, and their man-made boxes for who I am and how I work. Your story will challenge, and for some, will gloriously liberate the self-righteous. But why am I publishing your story? Why am I now putting your life on such a public display? You must understand my motive. It is not, ultimately, to bring glory to you. It is to bring glory to my grace. For you see, my grace is the true protagonist of your story. My grace is the hero. My grace is the great and central subject. Your life is simply the beautiful and dramatic stage upon which my grace has performed its greatest and most glorious work. And when people read the story of your life, they will not, in the end, applaud you. They will be forced to stand in a holy and a reverent awe, and they will applaud me. So you must now, my beloved, partner with me in this great and glorious publication. You must be willing to be read, and this means you must be willing to be seen. You must be willing to be known, truly and authentically known. You must be willing, when I, by my Spirit, prompt you to open the pages of your life and to tell your story, with all its painful and its beautiful chapters. You are to tell it, not with a spirit of shame, but with a quiet and a humble heart that is filled to overflowing with a gratitude for the grace that has rewritten your ending. Your testimony is the great book that I have authored, and it is now ready for its official and its glorious release. The story of your life, which was once a small, a painful, and a shameful secret that you kept hidden in the darkness, is now becoming a great and a glorious epic of my grace. It is a story that will be told and that will be retold. It is a story that will bring healing and hope and freedom to many. The long and painful season of your hiding is over. The testimony is now being made public. The great and glorious decree has been made in the heavens. The long and shameful story of your failure has been taken by me. Your divine offer and it has been rewritten with a new and a triumphant ending as a beautiful and a powerful story of my grace. I have now commissioned and published this new story, the story that is your very life. As a living and a breathing testament to my name, you are now a living epistle, a book that is to be known and to be read by all. But I know the holy and the reverent fear that now rises in your heart as you step into this new and public calling. You are thinking to yourself, now that my life is on public display as a testament to God, what if I fail again? What if I stumble? What if I misrepresent my loving and gracious God? The pressure to now be a perfect testament feels like too great a burden for me to carry. You fear that your ongoing and very real humanity will now tarnish the very testimony that I'm seeking to create through your life. But my beloved child, you have, once again, misunderstood your role in this glorious story. You are not the hero of this story. My grace is the hero. And you are not the author of this testimony. I am the author. And you are not even the primary narrator. Your role is something far more restful and far more beautiful. You are the trophy in the great and ancient wars of your world. When a king won a great and a decisive victory, he would return home with the spoils of that war, the treasures he had won, and he would place these treasures in his house as a trophy, a lasting and a visible testament to the greatness of his victory. My child, you are my trophy. You are the beautiful treasure that I have won from the hand of the enemy in the great battle for your soul. And I am now placing you with great pride and with great joy on the mantelpiece of my kingdom for all the world to see. The trophy does not have to be perfect. Its entire glory is found in what it signifies, on a glorious victory. You do not have to strive to be a perfect testament. You are simply called to be a living, a breathing, and a beautiful trophy of my goodness. Your life, from this day forward, is not about your performance. It is about my great victory. This is how to live as a trophy of my goodness. What does it mean to live this way? It means you must learn several new and holy disciplines of the heart. First, you must learn to tell your story with humility, not with shame, when I, by my Spirit, give you the opportunity to share your story with another person. You must learn to tell it in a new, in a different way. You are no longer to tell it with the old, heavy, and downcast voice of your former shame, but neither are you to tell it with the proud and self-congratulatory voice of a self-made hero who has overcome great odds. No, you are now to learn to tell your story with a quiet, a beautiful, and a profound humility. This means that the central character of your story must no longer be you. The hero of your story must always be my grace. Your story is not about how strong you were, but about how weak you were and how gloriously strong I was on your behalf. It is not about how wise you were, but about how foolish you were and how patiently I have guided you. When you learn to tell your story in this new, grace-centered way, it will become irresistible. It will be a story that does not bring glory to you, but brings glory to me. Next, you must learn to point all of the glory back to me as your new life. This beautiful testament of my grace begins to shine. People will be drawn to it, and in their admiration, they will be tempted to praise you. They will praise your new strength. They will praise your new wisdom. They will praise your new peace and your new joy. And you must learn with a gentle, a quick, and a joyful grace to deflect all of this praise from yourself and to point it back to its true and its only source. You are the moon, my beloved, and I am the sun, and your only job is to beautifully and faithfully reflect my light. You must learn to say, with a sincere and a grateful heart, thank you for your kind words, but all the glory, all the credit, and all the praise belongs to my Father in heaven. For he is the one who has done this great and miraculous work in me. This holy act of deflecting glory is one of the highest and most beautiful forms of worship. You must also now learn to live with a quiet confidence. You are now gloriously free from the frantic, anxious, and exhausting energy of trying to prove your own worth. You are a trophy of my grace, and a trophy does not have to strive. It does not have to perform. It simply rests in its given place of honor. And I am now calling you to live with a new, a deep, a settled, and a quiet confidence. It is not a confidence in yourself. It is a profound and a restful confidence in me, the one who has won you, the one who has restored you, and the one who now displays you with such great joy. This quiet, non-anxious presence will now become one of the most powerful and most compelling aspects of your entire testimony. The world will see your deep and unshakable peace in the midst of new storms, and they will be baffled by it, and they will want to know its source. And finally, you must learn to embrace your ongoing process. A testament of my grace is not the story of a person who has become perfect and no longer struggles. No, it is a story of a person who is being perfected, a person who is in a constant, in a daily process of being transformed. Do not be afraid for people to see your ongoing struggles. Do not pretend that you have arrived at a state of flawless perfection. Be authentic and be honest about your own daily and profound need for my grace. Your ongoing need for me is not a contradiction to your testimony. It is the very heart of it. It proves to a watching world that my grace is not a one-time event that happened in your past, but a daily, a vital, and a life-sustaining reality that you cannot live without. As you learn to live in this new and beautiful way, telling your story with humility, pointing all glory back to me, resting in a quiet confidence, and being authentic about your ongoing process, you will find that being a testament is not a heavy burden that you must carry. It will become a joyful, a light, and an effortless overflow of the work that I have done and that I'm continuing to do in your life. Your transformed life will preach a far more powerful sermon than your lips ever could. And so, my beloved, my beautiful testament of my grace, our journey of revelation has now come to its end. From the deep and painful shame of believing your life was a cautionary tale, you have come to understand the glorious and upside-down logic of my grace. You have seen how your greatest failures, your deepest weaknesses, and your most painful scars have been transformed from a source of your shame into the very stage for my glory. You have heard my divine declaration that your life has now been published. And you now have the simple, the joyful, and the restful instructions for how to live as a trophy of my goodness. I want you to see yourself now, not as a flawed and a shameful story, but as a beautiful and a priceless trophy sitting on the great mantelpiece in the main hall of my heavenly house. I am the king. And when other kings and dignitaries come to visit, I will not show them the trophies of my power in creation, the stars or the mountains. No, I will walk them to the mantelpiece, and I will point to you, and I will say, with a father's immense pride, look at this. This is the testament of my grace. This is the proof of my love. This is my beloved child, whom I have rescued and redeemed. Is she not magnificent? Rest now in your place of honor. Your life is and will always be a beautiful and an eternal testament to my glorious grace.